I never imagined that a simple lunch meeting could turn into the most surreal, confusing day of my life. My name is Ryan, 24, an ordinary guy with a steady job at a local marketing firm. I liked the routine of life, the office, the coffee breaks, the predictable rhythm of deadlines. But beneath the surface, I had a secret curiosity, a fascination with crossdressing that I had never fully explored. It wasn't about rebellion or exhibitionism. It was a private indulgence, a part of me I only allowed in my own apartment, behind closed doors. I remember that morning vividly. The sunlight streamed through the blinds, falling across the apartment in warm slats. I was pacing nervously, rehearsing what I was going to say in a meeting with a man I barely knew, a wealthy client named Victor. His firm had taken a sudden interest in my company's latest campaign, and he wanted to meet in person. I thought it would be a standard meeting, maybe a handshake, a few words about business. But Victor had other plans. He wasn't just a client. He was precise, confident, and somehow intimidating. He carried an aura that suggested he could get anything he wanted, and when he smiled, it didn't feel entirely friendly. I had seen him before at work events, dressed impeccably in tailored suits, his demeanor effortlessly commanding attention. And now, he had asked for a private consultation, alone with me. I arrived at the upscale cafe, heart-pounding, suit-pressed and polished. Victor was already there, seated at a corner table with a commanding presence. His eyes tracked me as I approached, sharp and calculating. We exchanged greetings and the conversation began. But then, unexpectedly, he leaned back and studied me, a strange smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Ryan," he said, voice smooth, deliberate, "I have a proposal for you." I blinked. "Proposal?" He nodded, leaning slightly forward. "Yes. I have a formal event coming up. A charity gala. My date can't attend last minute, and I need someone to accompany me. You'll be well compensated if you meet certain criteria." "Criteria?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" Victor's smirk deepened. "I want you to come as a female companion. Dress, makeup, the full package. You'll be my date girl for the evening." My stomach dropped. "Excuse me? You want me to cross-dress?" "Yes," he said, casually, as if he were asking me to pass the sugar. "And I'm willing to pay well." "Very well." The absurdity of the situation collided with the curiosity I had always held secret. My mind raced. Here was a man offering me a legitimate reason, financial, professional, and completely out of my normal world, to explore the side of myself I had always hidden. Panic surged, but so did intrigue. I had always wondered what it would feel like to step fully into that world, to embody the persona I had only ever glimpsed in private. And now, the opportunity was laid before me, tangible and real. Victor outlined his expectations clearly. The dress, the shoes, the hair, the demeanor, all of it had to be perfect. I would need to practice, to learn, to transform myself into someone entirely new. The thought was terrifying, but a strange thrill ran through me. This wasn't just about clothes. It was about identity, performance, and stepping into a role that could reveal hidden parts of myself. I left the cafe in a daze, my head spinning with the possibilities and implications. On the subway ride home, I imagined the outfits, the makeup, the graceful movements, the high heels. The thought of being seen in public like this, exposed, vulnerable, and yet alluring, made my heart pound. At the same time, I felt a pang of fear. What if someone recognized me? What if my friends, my colleagues, or worse, my girlfriend, found out? The stakes were high, and the consequences of failure could be embarrassing, or worse. At home, I stared at my reflection in the mirror. My apartment, usually a sanctuary, suddenly felt like a stage waiting for its lead actor. I had the tools, a few dresses I had tried privately, a small collection of makeup, and the faint, thrilling knowledge of how to present myself as feminine. I realized then that this experience would test every aspect of my secret self, my confidence, my skill, my courage. As I experimented with a soft blouse and a flowing skirt, I noticed the subtle changes in my posture, the tilt of my head, the sway of my hips. Every detail mattered, and the act of dressing was more than clothing. It was a transformation. I felt exposed yet empowered, nervous yet exhilarated. The thrill of becoming someone entirely new, even temporarily, coursed through me like electricity. And then there was the money. Victor had promised a generous payment, enough to make this risk, this emotional and social gamble, seem worthwhile. It wasn't just about curiosity anymore. It was about opportunity, survival, and stepping into a world where boundaries blurred and identities shifted. By the time I sat down to plan the evening, my heart was a storm of conflicting emotions. Excitement wrestled with fear, desire tangled with self-consciousness, and curiosity mingled with apprehension. I knew that once I accepted this challenge, there would be no turning back, not entirely. Victor's world was waiting, and I would have to become his date girl, embodying a persona that was both foreign and tantalizingly close to the desires I had kept secret for so long. The next morning, I woke up with my mind buzzing. Every detail from the previous day, the cafe meeting, Victor's words, the offer, replayed in my head like a loop. I had agreed, of course, to think it over, but deep down, I already knew I couldn't back out. The money was significant, yes, but more than that, the opportunity to fully explore this side of myself was too tantalizing to ignore. I spent the morning pacing, thinking about what I would need. I pulled out my modest collection of dresses, skirts, and blouses, the ones I had experimented with in private. Now, the stakes were higher. Every piece had to be perfect. My hands shook slightly as I ran my fingers along a soft, navy blue dress, the kind of dress I had only dreamed of wearing in public. The thought of pairing it with matching heels made my stomach twist with anticipation and fear. Victor had given me precise instructions. I was to be elegant, poised, and completely convincing as a female companion. This wasn't a casual experiment. This was a professional, high-stakes role, and failure wasn't an option. Every movement, every gesture, every word had to align with the persona I was about to embody. I started with makeup, something I had only practiced in the privacy of my apartment. The brush strokes, the foundation, the careful application of eyeliner and lipstick, it all felt nerve-wracking under the imagined scrutiny of Victor and the gala attendees. Each layer of makeup was both a mask and a revelation, transforming my face into someone unrecognizable, yet strangely me. I paused often to examine my reflection, marveling at the subtle curves and contours, the feminized features taking shape. Choosing the outfit was another trial. The navy blue dress felt elegant, but pairing it with heels added a new level of vulnerability. I had walked in heels before, yes, but now I had to perfect the gait, the posture, and the poise. I practiced in front of the mirror, adjusting my balance, the sway of my hips, the tilt of my head. Each movement was deliberate, rehearsed, and exhausting, but thrilling in a way I hadn't expected. By mid-afternoon, I began rehearsing the persona I would present at the gala. Soft gestures, careful speech, polite smiles, graceful movements. Every detail mattered. I experimented with voice, lowering it slightly, softening my tone, and practicing laughter that sounded natural yet feminine. Each attempt left me both exhilarated and self-conscious. Could I really pull this off? Could I fool not just strangers, but Victor himself and possibly hundreds of guests at the gala? The suspense grew as I imagined the night ahead. Victor was a demanding man, and his expectations were high. One misstep could ruin everything, not just the evening, but my dignity, my secret, and my confidence. My mind raced through every possible scenario, someone recognizing me, stumbling on the heels, smudging the makeup. Anxiety clashed with excitement in a dizzying swirl. Hours passed as I rehearsed, changed outfits, adjusted makeup, and refined my posture. The more I practiced, the more I felt a strange duality settling over me. Part fear, part exhilaration, part forbidden curiosity. I was becoming someone else entirely, yet still undeniably me. The persona I was building wasn't just for Victor. It was a reflection of a hidden desire, a side of myself that I had long suppressed. Even my phone buzzing added tension. Messages from friends, casual reminders, all felt like they could shatter the fragile illusion I was constructing. Every sound became a potential interruption, every shadow a threat of exposure. The suspense was palpable. By evening, I was ready, or at least I thought I was. I stepped back to examine my reflection one last time. The dress clung perfectly. The heels accentuated my legs, the makeup highlighted my features, and my hair flowed just right. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and yet powerful in a strange, intoxicating way. The final moment before leaving was the most intense. I rehearsed my smile, my walk, my voice, all while listening for any signs of intrusion. Every detail mattered. I knew that when I met Victor, he would be evaluating not just my appearance, but my confidence, my poise, and my ability to embody the role fully. Finally, I took a deep breath, grabbed my clutch, and prepared to step into a world where I was both performer and audience, object and subject, thrill and terror all at once. The suspense had shifted from imagination to reality. Every step I took toward Victor's event brought me closer to exposure, to judgment, to a night that could change my life forever. The night of the gala arrived like a storm. The city lights shimmered through the limousine windows as Victor drove, his hand resting casually on my shoulder. My heart pounded, my stomach churned, and the heels pressed painfully into my feet, but I kept my composure. I was his date girl now, and every movement, every glance, every word mattered. The venue was opulent, glittering with crystal chandeliers and the murmur of high society guests. As Victor guided me into the grand hall, I felt every eye on me. Noticing me, yes, but also noticing the subtle cues of elegance, of confidence, of the femininity I had cultivated over weeks of private practice. My hands trembled slightly as I held my clutch, my heels clicking delicately across the marble floors. Victor leaned close and whispered, "Remember, you're my perfect girl tonight. Every detail counts." His gaze was sharp, appraising, sending a shiver down my spine. I nodded, forcing a smile, but the vulnerability in me quivered beneath the polished surface. The first hour was a whirlwind of introductions, polite conversation, and careful observation. I smiled, laughed softly, and moved with the grace I had rehearsed, but every interaction felt like walking a tightrope. One misstep could unravel the illusion, revealing the hidden Ryan beneath the poised exterior. Then came the first challenge. A colleague of Victor's, someone I had met only briefly at the office, approached and began a casual conversation. They leaned slightly closer, eyes scanning, and my pulse spiked. I had to respond naturally, to embody the character fully, while keeping my secret intact. I spoke softly, carefully modulating my voice, and laughed at the right moments. The tension coiled in my chest like a spring, and I realized the thrill of being caught was mingled with a deep, intoxicating excitement. Victor was watching, always watching. Every gesture I made, every glance, every laugh, was evaluated. And then came a subtle but unmistakable test. He motioned toward the dance floor. "Shall we?" he asked. I froze briefly, realizing the implications. Dancing meant closer contact, more vulnerability, the potential for someone else to notice the slightest falter. But I nodded, stepping forward, letting the music guide us. My body moved with practiced elegance, yet my mind raced with panic and anticipation. Each step, each turn, each sway was a test of control, composure, and identity. The symbolic moment arrived when my heel caught slightly on the polished floor. Time slowed. My balance faltered, and I felt the dress shift, threatening to expose more than I intended. Victor's hand steadied me instantly, his gaze meeting mine with a mix of command and amusement. Relief flooded me, but so did a new surge of awareness. My vulnerability was on display, and the thrill of exposure was impossible to ignore. Then the real twist came. An unexpected guest, someone from my office, someone who knew me well, approached our table. Recognition flickered in their eyes, and my heart froze. Could they tell? Did they suspect? I forced a smile, adjusting my posture, hoping that my carefully crafted persona would hold under scrutiny. Every second stretched into eternity. Victor noticed my tension and leaned closer, whispering, "Relax. You're perfect. No one can see the real you tonight." His words were reassuring, but they also reminded me of the stakes. I was performing, not just for him, but for everyone, and the slightest slip could shatter the illusion. The rest of the evening became a gauntlet of social interactions, subtle tests, and close calls. I laughed, danced, conversed, and maneuvered through the crowd with a precision that left me exhausted yet exhilarated. Each moment of exposure, each second of tension, heightened the thrill, blending fear and desire into a heady, intoxicating cocktail. Finally, as the gala drew to a close, Victor led me to a quiet balcony overlooking the city. The night air was cool against my skin, the lights twinkling like stars below. I exhaled, relief and adrenaline mingling in a dizzying swirl. I had survived the evening, navigated every challenge, and maintained the persona of his perfect date girl. Yet the suspense wasn't over. Victor's hand brushed mine lightly, a subtle yet deliberate reminder of control. "Not bad, Ryan," he said, voice low and commanding. "But this is only the beginning." I sank against the railing, breathless, heels aching, dress slightly rumpled, and realized the truth. This night had changed everything. I had crossed a line I could never uncross, stepping fully into a world of vulnerability, performance, and exhilaration. My identity, my desires, and my fears were now intertwined in a dangerous, intoxicating game, one I wasn't sure I could ever escape. The gala lights dimmed, leaving the city's skyline glittering like a field of distant stars. I stood on the balcony, Victor beside me, feeling both exhilarated and completely exposed. My heels pressed painfully into the marble floor. My dress clung in ways that reminded me of every detail Victor had demanded, and my heart thudded in my chest. I had survived the night, navigated every interaction, and maintained the persona of his perfect date girl, but I also knew this was only the beginning. Victor's gaze lingered on me, sharp and assessing. "You did well tonight," he said, his voice low and deliberate. "Better than I expected." A shiver ran through me, not entirely from the cold. There was a thrill in his praise, but also a subtle warning. Victor's approval was both a reward and a reminder of control. I realized that my entire night, every gesture, every smile, had been a performance under his scrutiny. And the truth hit me. My vulnerability was now entwined with something far more intoxicating than mere curiosity. I glanced at my reflection in the nearby glass, catching the distorted image of my transformed self. The familiar Ryan I had known for years seemed distant, almost unreal. Standing there in heels, dress flowing perfectly, makeup highlighting my features, I was both me and someone entirely new. A part of me reveled in it, the confidence, the allure, the power hidden within this delicate persona, but another part trembled with fear. Exposure, embarrassment, and discovery were constant threats. Then, from inside the gala hall, a familiar laugh echoed, my colleague from work, the one who had nearly recognized me. My pulse skyrocketed. Had they seen through the persona? Were they aware of what I had done? Every scenario played in my head: confrontation, humiliation, secrets exposed. My stomach twisted with anxiety, but I forced a calm expression, pretending to enjoy the cool night air. Victor's hand brushed lightly against mine, a gentle yet commanding reminder of the stakes. "Relax," he whispered. "No one saw anything tonight. You were flawless. But remember, this isn't just a one-time thing. I expect more. And I know you're capable." I swallowed hard, trying to steady my racing heart. The words were both reassuring and terrifying. More meant continued exposure, more rehearsals, more danger of being discovered. Yet there was an undeniable thrill in the thought, a pull toward the excitement of this new life I was stepping into. A sudden noise, a car door slamming below, a shout from the street, made me jump slightly. My heels clicked sharply as I adjusted my stance, and my dress shifted, reminding me of the fragility of the persona I had built. One wrong move, one misstep, and the illusion could shatter. Victor's eyes caught mine, noting the momentary lapse, and I felt both chastised and exhilarated. "Are you ready for the next step?" he asked, his voice carrying a mix of challenge and expectation. I nodded, unable to speak, caught between fear and fascination. My mind raced. What would the next step entail? More public exposure? More tests of my composure? Would I be able to maintain this persona under constant scrutiny, or would my secret unravel? As I stared at my reflection one last time, a mixture of excitement and dread coiled in my chest. I was trapped in this delicate balance between vulnerability and empowerment, fear and exhilaration. The city lights shimmered below, mirroring the uncertainty of my future. And then, footsteps approaching from the balcony entrance. Slow, deliberate. My pulse froze. Victor's hand remained on mine, steadying me, but I knew the moment had come. My next challenge was at the door, and whatever awaited me would test the limits of my dual identity. I inhaled deeply, my breath trembling, my heels pressing into the floor, and realized that my life had irrevocably changed. I was no longer just Ryan. I was the date girl Victor had paid for, a persona both fragile and intoxicating, and entirely under his watchful eye. The story paused there, leaving every question unanswered. Would the approaching figure recognize me? Was my secret about to be exposed? Could I survive the next stage of Victor's plan? The night held its breath, and I stood on the edge of anticipation, fear, and desire, completely transformed, completely exposed, and completely uncertain of what came next.